In the midst of bad, choose to do good. And in the midst of hate, choose to show love. Because that's how we will change the world. Let me tell you how I've seen evidence of life's hardship and tragedy and pain create movements of compassion. When I was 29, I was automatically inducted to a secret society that no one wants to be a part of. At the time, I was a recruiter, and I was home doing a phone interview with a candidate when during the interview, I got a call. At first, I couldn't hear what the caller was screaming, but finally, the only word I could make out was shot. My husband, Richard, owned a CrossFit, and someone had walked in and shot him. In that very moment, everything in my life changed forever. Immediately, my body started convulsing. I've never experienced something like that before. And as I picked up my 2-year-old son to walk him over to the neighbors, I was bouncing him because I didn't want him to feel what was happening to my body. I went 100 and something down the highway, and it wasn't until the light before our gym that I thought to myself, wait, why am I not on my way to the hospital? Let me tell you something. Nothing can prepare you for the days or the months or the years ahead. It's tough. And I remember one time, maybe 3 months after he died, laying crippled on the floor, experiencing a pain attack. Not a panic attack. I felt excruciating pain throughout my entire body, inside and out, and there was nothing I could do to make it stop. My head was pounding. I felt this sharp pain through my brain and my eyes. My throat and my jaw were tight. Have you ever cried so much that your neck hurts? My stomach felt like it had bricks in it. My legs ached, even my ankles and the soles of my feet hurt like I was Forrest Gump and just ran across the country. I was sweating and crying at the same time. I know my face didn't know the difference between perspiration and tears. And I know I'm not the only one who has felt this kind of deep pain, because our struggles may be packaged differently, but the pain is the same. Think about it. What if you find out you have cancer? Or what if a loved one has it? What if the doctor tells you that you can't have kids? Or maybe you've just experienced your 4th or 5th or 6th miscarriage. Or what if your spouse tells you that they're leaving you, that they want a divorce? Now listen, I'm not comparing any of these losses to one another, but my point is, life can be cruel, right? And these experiences, they can leave us feeling numb and angry and hopeless. And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated, disappointed. Listen, you can go to crazy town if you need to. Just don't build your house there. Don't get stuck in misery, because it's our individual experiences that shape the world around us. It's like a ripple effect. And when my husband died, I experienced a ripple effect of other changes and losses. And I felt like I was drowning, because it was one thing after another after another. But in the midst of all that darkness, there were people who put compassion into action, and they helped me to try and focus on the light. As a matter of fact, that first night is when I saw it. I was standing in the parking lot at the crime scene, and an officer came up to me and he said, "Mrs. Millsap, you're going to have to call someone to clean up in there." Talk about shocked. How do you respond to that? I didn't know what to say. As a matter of fact, I remember thinking, wow, this is my first responsibility as a widow. So finally I said, "What do you mean? Who do I call? How do I find them?" And his response, "You can look it up in the yellow pages." Thankfully, my pastor at the time was nearby, and he came over and he put his hands on my shoulder and he said, "Karen, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it." I even had a friend, Jamie, who would come over every single day. She would come over and just sit on the patio or lay on the ground, because I was on the ground a lot. But you know what? She was there. She didn't have to do much. She never had to say anything. But her presence was everything, because the smallest gesture can make an enormous impact on someone's life. And it was moments of impact like these that made me want to help others the way that others helped me. It made me want to show love to others the way that others showed love to me. And that's when I decided I'm going to take my pain and I'm going to turn it into purpose and I'm going to pay it forward. And now my passion goes hand in hand with my life's work. But you know, there's a saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And that's true. Because no, we can't avoid all pain, but we can choose how it impacts our lives. We can either be destroyed by a tragedy or we can let it drive us. We can either become bitter or we can become better. And it's this choice in that moment where you have to ask yourself, who do I want to be after going through this? Because that's where vision gives pain a purpose. And on a larger scale, I really believe that it's our social responsibility to share our pain and our experiences. Your suffering isn't just for you. It's meant to serve others. It's meant to be a source of hope or an act of compassion or strength to them in their time of need. And on a larger scale, that's exactly what happened here in Orlando. When our city was hit with the deadliest shooting in our country's history, instead of rioting in the streets or reacting to hate with hate, we chose to respond out of compassion, and our community was strengthened through acts of unity and love. You know, Paris is another great example. In 2015, they were attacked in 7 different locations around the city. And instead of, again, being upset, they decided that they were going to set the tone for peace and unity, and the world responded in solidarity. And even more recently, the attacks in Manchester. Instead of letting fear and anger divide a beautifully diverse city, they let peace and love triumph over terror and hate. So whether it's a personal hardship or an act of hate, the way we respond, our choices can change the trajectory of our stories. Let me tell you one more quick story about a professional athlete, Amy Purdy. Amy went into the hospital thinking that she had a bad case of the flu. But in less than 24 hours, she was on life support, in a coma, with less than 2% chance of living. 2%. She ended up coming out, but she lost her spleen, hearing in her left ear, her kidneys, and both of her legs below the knee. Sure, she was down for a while, but she did not let life count her out. She chose to embrace her new circumstances and rewrite her story. She actually jokes and says that she realized she could be as tall as she wanted to. Isn't that nice? And that she could make her feet the size of all the shoes on the sales rack. Coming from a size 10 girl, that's really nice. And that when she would snowboard again, that her feet wouldn't get cold. Needless to say, Amy went on to win 2 back-to-back World Cup gold medals in snowboarding. But even more inspiring, she started a nonprofit that afforded her the opportunity to take thousands of shoes to children in need in South Africa. Amy says what was meant to disable her enabled her to be more creative and do more than she ever would have before. So, what has life thrown at you? What was meant to knock you down? But more importantly, how can you use that experience to help others? Now, you may not be like Amy in the position or with the resources to make a large impact. And you may not be like me in such a deep pursuit that you make it your life's work. And that's okay, because no one can help everyone, but everyone can help someone. So my friends, again, I encourage you, In the midst of bad, choose to do good. And in the midst of hate, choose to show love, because that's how we change the world. Thank you.